feel like it was just him, or was it that you didn't really want to get married?
I think it was both. I think I didn't want to get married. I was actually having a lot of fun dating,
Yeah.
experimenting,
Well, and you
seeing
didn't get
what
to
was
do
out
it for
there.
very long. You didn't.
Yeah. And I didn't. And then but see, once again, I blamed myself. I was like, oh, if you weren't like so like overly sexual, maybe you could have. But no, like you can't help but get physical with a guy. Like if I'm dating a guy, I can't help like jump on him. And so then what do? Got to get married.
Yeah, you just wanted to fuck.
Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
I I felt like I knew my body knew what it was going to do. My body knew what it was wanting to do. Like I feel like our sexuality was okay. Like that first experiment was fine, but also I was not like physically into it. I wasn't there. I mean, how was I supposed to be? I was literally 24 hours ago praying, please make it so I can break up with this guy. So there, if any way this doesn't have to happen. And now I'm expected to like do the most intimate act with him and like be into it. But like I wasn't. Like, I mean, I was into it in the fact that like my physical like needs were being met, but not in like what I was hoping it would be in like this connecting.
so were you hoping that because you didn't feel that chemistry before, you were hoping that through sex, then you would start feeling that chemistry once you finally had sex with him?
I don't know if I had that hope. No, I
Okay.
think I was just like, I think it was more like, at least I'll have my needs met. I don't think I ever had hope. I think I was, from the moment I said I do, I was now on exit strategy. I was like on how do I get out of this? Like now I'm in this, how do I get out of this? Because I just knew I had made a huge mistake for me.
Well, also, do you feel like there is this huge, like, I mean, there's this myth that as soon as you get married too, or that sex is going to be great. It's going to be awesome as long as you're married. Like, and so are you also expecting it to be great and it wasn't?
I don't think so, just because even in like our relationship before we got married, I was not like as physically active with him as I was with the other guys I had dated. And so I don't think I had any expectation of this being great. That was certainly not an expectation. I think broadly, yes, I had the hope that if I got married, that's what it would be.
You're going
And
to die on that hill.
yep, we have sex, we do our thing. And then I like am naked and I go to sleep. And my husband says, my new husband, he's like, oh, we better put our garments on. And I was like, oh. So I think that I felt good about whatever I was thinking is like sexuality and like marriage and like openness with each other. I felt like, listen, I've made my bed. I'm going to lie in it. It's okay. I can like learn to be compatible with this person and I can like learn to do this thing and like I'm going to live out my ideal of it. And he was like, we better put our garments on. And I was just like, oh, that was just like another layer of feeling like closed in, caged in, now everything. And once we got married, I think I remembered that next morning of my wedding day, waking up and nothing was going to stop this marriage. And I just remember praying to God, like, I think I was begging him, like, if you could stop this marriage, I'll be the best person you can like think of. But I like kind of reasoned with myself, like, oh well, I'll still be like the best Mormon I can. Like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna be the best wife. And at the same time, I was like planning an exit strategy. Like I was like living two people in one brain. On the one hand, I was like, I'm going to be the best wife. And on the other hand, I'm like, maybe if I'm crazy, he'll divorce me. Maybe if I have an affair, he'll divorce me. Maybe if I can go find somebody else who's into me and I can like form a relationship with this person, I can like have a reason why I need to get out. Because
Wait, so
now in
did
my
you do all
mind,
that? Were you like, okay, you plan this like crazy episode where you're going to absolutely like come unhinged? Did you do that?
I will tell you, I didn't do that necessarily, but I did not hold back on any of my thoughts or feelings. I was like,
You were an asshole.
I was, yes. And I was like, oh, I will be crazy and I will throw things and I will be like, I don't think I threw things, but I would like yell and I will storm off and I will be irrational and immature and like show you, oh, you thought it was going to be okay to marry a 19-year-old. I'm going to show you how okay it was. And like be as
Wow. So
immature
you are
as
going to
I,
sabotage your
yes.
marriage.
Because then I thought, because in my mind, if he asked for the out, then it was okay. Like it wasn't okay for me to cave and say, let me get out of this eternal commitment. But if he was going to ask, then it was going to be okay.
Okay, so before you had all of this faith in God, like God is going to save
Mhm.
you from this marriage. You're praying and he doesn't do it. So now you're like, well, screw that. You and by the way, you've already ignored your own intuition at this point to do what the church is telling you to do. And
Yes.
so
Yeah.
now for the first time ever, Heather's like, "You know what? I'm taking this into my own hands and I'm going to
Yeah.
destroy my marriage."
Yes, that self betrayal is
Mhm.
like, it was through the roof. And so I was like, oh, well, guess what? Now we all are going to suffer. And this is like, I tend to play games like this too, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm going to lose. You're all coming down with me. And like, that's how I carried to Phil. Oh, I'm going to lose. We're all going down then in this ship.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it, and at the same time, I like have the background probably like, be a good girl,
This
be a
is
good girl,
honestly
be a good
probably
girl.
the first time ever that you're being honest with yourself.
Yes. Yes. Of like, and I'm just sitting here every day. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want to be married. I really don't want this. And so I would flirt with guys if the chance came. I was a waitress. I was like flirting with guys all the time and taking off my ring and getting numbers. Like I never did anything on it about it, but like there was something validating of like feeling like, okay, there's possibility. Like I'm not stuck, but I felt very stuck. And all of this to say, and I hate it because I felt at first in my story, I felt like such a villain because my husband's a good guy. You know what I mean? Like he's a great human. But also now I look back and I'm like, he could have been with somebody who wasn't psychotic. Like maybe he could have been with somebody who like wanted to be with him. You know what I mean? And like, how sad is that? That like,
Yeah.
because of my own thoughts. And so we kind of just carry on. I think like any normal young married couple, just trying to do the right things, going to the temple, and on the same time, like I am not really mentally in this marriage. And we end up deciding we're going to have a baby after 3 years. I had graduated. Well, and also, so we were going to follow. I told him, like, I'm going to do my career, like, I'm going to go to school. But as soon as he had complications with his schooling that conflicted with mine, that like he couldn't be down in Provo for school, then it was like, I guess we go back to Rexburg. I guess we have to follow him. And then it's more of this repression of self. It's like, okay, now I can't have the job. First, I can't marry the guy I want to marry. Now I can't have the job I want to have. Like, I can't get the degree I want to have. Then we have a baby. And we waited 3 years, like very purposefully. I feel like going into having a child was very intentional for us. Um, but for me, it was like wanting an expression of love. I was like, in somewhat of a loveless marriage. Not that my husband wasn't trying to love me or I wasn't trying to love him. It just was marred by this secret that like I don't want this. Like the whole thing was just covered in this cloak of like I don't want this.
Well, I'm sure at this point he also is not wanting this. He's
So after having our first baby, I get like my first career job offer. I pivoted and went to school for recreation management. I mean, we're skiers and snowboarders and rock climbers, like we do it all. And so I pivoted and I was like, that's fine. A career in recreation is wonderful. I've already been working at a ski resort. Um, and I get offered a job with Carnival Cruises to run the entire deck of the cruise ship, like be the manager. And my husband's like, we have a baby. Like, you can't leave us for 2 months at a time. And I'm like, no, I can. Like, in my mind, I'm like, I can go have like a whole separate life where I'm like, no church,
yeah, this is
no,
your
no
out. Like you
Kyle.
were seriously thinking you got to be crazy. You got to, have an affair. You got to do all these things. No, all you got to do is get a job.
Yes. And he's like, that is not rational. You cannot take this job. And so then now I'm like, okay, can't have marry the guy I want, can't have the degree I want, can't have the job I want. What else? And at this point, I'm just like, whatever. Like, fuck it all. This is my life. Like, there's just like a complete resignation. This is my life. And so that is, I just be like the Mormon housewife. and I just am the Mormon housewife for years.
You
Coming
seem
back,
very, very happy about it.
yeah, it was great. No resentment or anger, I promise. It was fine. So coming back to the guy who I met who wasn't a Mormon and we had been pen pals. Well, he and I start corresponding again. We like stopped a little bit when I first got married because in my mind, if you're like a Mormon woman, you should not have a friend who is a man. Like that's like a no-no. You're not allowed to have male friends.
That's not in your mind. That is like that's all Mormons, active Mormons, I would say. That's
Yeah, I mean, well, and I learned that from other people, right? Like I heard it from other people, like, oh, and I deleted all the other guys and I threw away anything they ever gave me and whatever. And I didn't do that. I did not throw away things. Like I was like, no.
yeah, except for that one kid, he definitely burned your letter.
Anyway, so I kind of like start this correspondence with this guy again and feel like myself. Like I have an outlet to breathe, like somewhere I can like not be little Miss Mormon mommy and like have someone I can talk to who's not stuck in this bubble of hell I've like created for myself that is my perfect Mormon life. At some point, we ended like signing off our letters with like love Heather, love X, and
Wait, so
um
are these like really through the mail letters or are these email?
email.
Like, okay, email.
Email and if anybody were to read these, like if these were to fall in the hands of anybody, they'd be like, Heather has a friend. Like there's literally nothing untoward in these aside from the fact that like there was a marked change in how I felt about this person when I started signing like
Like,
love.
honestly, if he had a vagina, you would be corresponding the exact same way.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes. Um,
Did you feel
but when
like it
I,
was an emotional affair then?
yes, absolutely. I
How?
felt
Just because he didn't have
so
a
dirty.
vagina?
In my head, I was like, man, I wish I could be there, not here. And to me, that's like the betrayal, right? Is like, if I'm wanting to be with anybody other than my husband, that is like what infidelity is in the Mormon church, right? If you're wanting to be with anybody that's not your spouse, that's infidelity. You shouldn't have those types of feelings for anybody other than your spouse. Right before I had my second child, he like messages me and he's like, hey, I need to let you know I've been married for 3 years. And at that point, I was like, oh gosh, now there's like another woman. Like my poor husband, I had like thrown out his feelings with the bathwater from day one. But when there's like somebody else, I was like, oh, this isn't good. Like, even though we are just friends, it's like nefarious. Like it feels like yucky and dirty. So I go tell my bishop. I, throughout my marriage, had talked to a couple bishops and I told one early on in our marriage, this is rough. Marriage is rough for me because I didn't want to get married. And like, I feel like I have this secret I'm hiding from my husband that I never wanted to marry him. And he's like, well, are you committed now? And I was like, well, yeah, I mean, sure. I like want to do what God wants me to do. And he's like, then don't tell him. Don't tell him. That's only going to hurt his feelings. And I'm like, okay. So then I like, knowing this whole time, I'm just living a lie. Like, I feel like my life is a lie.
Well, how do you feel it would have been different if maybe you would have talked to a normal therapist about something like that versus your bishop? And why are we within the church? Why do we feel as though these bishops are basically therapists that they should have all the answer?
Yeah, literally every bishop I ever had was like a school teacher. And I'm like, how are you qualified to like
Yeah, but
be counseling
did you
somebody
ever
on their
go talk to a
marriage?
regular therapist about any of these things?
No, not about those things. Not until several years later. It was several years later before I talked to a non-Mormon person about these feelings. Yeah, you just want to be a good Mormon person, right? You just want to live your covenant. Then don't worry about it. Like just hide it. It's okay to lie. Like you shouldn't lie. That's not what God wants you to do. Actually, that's a sin. But it's okay to lie in this instance because it's like protecting your temple covenant.
Did either of them tell you to stop the correspondence?
I already had. I was
Okay.
like already had like called everything off and blocked everything and was like, I'll never, wishing you the best. We're not going to have any more communication. I had already done that.
That's wild. I mean, you did everything that you were supposed to do. You figured it out on your own, whatever your conscience, was clear. And you still needed that like stamp of approval, even though I'm sure you're still praying at this point, right? So you're getting those promptings, those impressions. and yet you still have to go through the formality of talking to this middle-aged man that's a freaking teacher.
To me, it felt like rationalization to be like, oh, you did enough, like praying was enough. That felt like a rationalization. It felt like if I was being honest with myself, I have to go talk to the bishop to completely clear it.
And there is no sexual correspondence going on. You're not talking about, there's no sexting, is what I mean. Like, really, all you are doing is having a conversation with somebody that happens to not have a vagina, and you're not talking about how you want to leave your husband and be with this person. You're not telling him any of those things. He's not saying he wants to leave his wife. I mean, that is not what's happening. Is that correct?
No, not at
So
all.
that blows my mind that you're still toying with this and that you're even calling it an emotional affair.
And when I went and told my husband, I think he was hurt, but he was like, okay, like if it's
Like,
over, that's
did he ask
fine.
all the questions too? He's like what? Like, what were you talking about? Like, are you wanting to be with him? Is he like talking about being with you? Or like, did he ask any of those questions? Like, did you meet up? Have you, I mean, right?
No, right.
No.
But one thing, like, I try to be a really clean person. I don't want like messiness in any of my affairs. So I like came to him with all of the facts. And so there was nothing for him to wonder or worry about. I was like, here's all the facts. Here's how it is. Because I wanted it to be as clean and tidy as possible. Our sexuality in our marriage was very dysfunctional because he got the whiff very early on in our marriage that like I wasn't into having sex. Like I would do it and like I wanted it sometimes obviously for like my own, feelings, but I wasn't that into it with him. And so he one time was like, maybe if we look at other like sex poses, like maybe this can like help things and like make our marriage better. And so he like looked online to try to like print out something, but he ended up like getting aroused by what he was looking at and like masturbating. And then he came and confessed to me like what he was doing. And in my mind, it was like all dirty then. I was like, ew, you're looking at like those nasty sex positions, like anything other than just missionary. Are you kidding
Because
me?
that's all you're doing. Do you think that the missionary came from the Mormon church? That technical term, it had to have, right? Like,
Probably,
so at
probably.
this point, you are only doing missionary. That is it.
Oh, yeah. Like
So you're
just
not,
trying.
like, how do you even know? Like, at this point, how do you even know that sex is, it could be good, right? Because I mean,
Yeah,
I don't really know anybody that's any female. I mean, I talk to all my friends, like, you're not going to have an orgasm in that position. It's not happening. I mean, am I
right.
wrong?
Well, I mean, I figured it out. Like I am like a
Good
very
for
sexual
you.
being. So I'm like,
So
I'm gonna
resourceful.
figure out how to get what I need out of this. Okay. But it wasn't like great. Like never was it like great.
Yeah, like you're
And
like your own personal like masturbation orgasms were better.
yeah. Well, even I wasn't doing that because even if you're married, you're still not supposed to do that.
Yeah, I
And so
know.
I
I
would,
did though.
yeah. Well, I did too, right? Like I
Yeah.
did too. Because it was like my sexuality, my marriage was so dysfunctional. And so then he like, you know, had bouts of looking at porn. I obviously didn't divorce him. We're still married, but like that was really hard and created a lot of hardship. And in my mind, looking at porn meant he was addicted. Like if you're gonna view pornography, you're addicted to pornography. And so then we just went
The
down
poor
like this.
man, all he was trying to do was find some tools so he could get laid
He just
by
needed
his
to like
wife.
express himself. Oh, absolutely. Like he needed to have that outlet too. That's
Yeah.
all he needed was an outlet that was often met with like only obligation, right? Like on my end, it was met with like, okay, I'll do that because it's like obligatory because we're married to do it. Not like, oh yeah, I really want it. Unless I really did want it, then he would, but then I would usually initiate it if I did. But yeah, the poor guy. I mean, honestly, and also then that led me to thinking, oh my gosh, I'm married to like this pervert. Like, even though I'm like carrying on an emotional affair, I was like, oh, how dare you? Like, you have this taint, like this thing with you that's like tainted and like yucky that you look at pornography. Um, occasionally and always feel so guilty about it. And is always like going to the bishop and getting handed a new pamphlet. And eventually, we moved to our current home and we have 3 kids now at this point. And I like started deep dive into like the 12-step process because I am like,
For addictions?
for addiction for my husband, because I'm like,
So
maybe,
let's be clear. So you are taking on the responsibility to go
yeah,
through the 12-step program for addictions for not yourself, but for your husband, because once again, you're feeling responsible for somebody else.
right. Well, and if we take it back to the beginning too, I appreciated that he was super into me when we were younger. And then in my mind, when he's viewing pornography, then like my own like womanhood comes into question of like, oh, am I not enough for you? Which I'm not, that's fine, whatever. Like, but like, am I not? And I'm like feeling really badly about myself. So I'm like, well, let's fix him so I can stop feeling badly because my husband's doing this thing. So sometimes he can't go to the temple. Sometimes he can't take the sacrament. Sometimes he can't do all of these things that are going to keep us from celestial glory. That's why it's my responsibility because I need to be here in celestial glory. And if he's not there, then what is all this for? What is all this suffering I've been in for years and years to stay true to my temple covenants? It's only worth something if in the afterlife I'm getting some sort of reward.
Okay, so you are thinking that if your husband is looking at pornography and he's masturbating because his wife's not really meeting his needs either, right? That's fair to say. So you're thinking now that you are not going to reach the highest degree, the highest level of heaven in the celestial kingdom. You're not going to get there because your husband is masturbating. And you've made all of these sacrifices with your own life and done everything that you think that the church wants to do instead of following your own intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And so now all of these sacrifices that you've made are now just going to go out the window because
Yeah,
and you've created all this. You realize that, right?
oh, absolutely. Right. But like, I don't want to take accountability. I'm just doing what God wanted me to do, Mel. This is not on me. I've been doing what God wants me to do the whole
That's
time.
right. Okay, yes. Yeah. I thought we were supposed to play Mel. What?
Oh yeah. Right. You came into this somehow too. So I'm like get really invested in like 12-step program. I like ended up at this 12-step program in California where I thought they were doing it really well. They were like doing it a lot more like Alcoholics Anonymous, and it was
Okay, so this
actually
this is not through the church.
it is through the church. It's called
Oh.
the Addiction Recovery Program,
Oh.
ARP.
Yeah, my husband went through
Um,
it's like a booklet, right? Like
yes.
it's like spiral ring booklet and you go through it, right?
Well, yeah, and but they do hold like meetings.
Yeah.
And
So my husband had to but he also had to go to like a counselor through LDS services that was
yeah,
at the stake center. And then he would be working through this booklet. And I believe he was able to because we lived a ways, like an hour and a half from the stake center. So
yeah.
I thought that he was able to kind of do that remotely somehow
Mm.
or
Yeah,
or
maybe.
phone in. I think he phoned in because we didn't really
Yeah,
have like Zoom and those types of things during that time. So he was,
right.
yeah, so he would phone into those meetings that you're talking about.
And like, I just want to take a minute to honor the husbands in this, in that the trauma induced by being told you are this horrible, like infidel.
Mhm.
Here's all these
Oh no,
programs
you're a
we've
sex
created,
addict.
just specially, yes, you're a sex
Mhm.
addict. Here's all these programs we've created just for you to like quell your sexuality, essentially.
Also, why are they having to develop this program if it isn't a freaking problem? And who is
Yes.
taking the responsibility that they've created this problem within the Mormon men?
I had looked that 9 out of 10 men were viewing pornography, and that included religious groups. And I remember one time I was at like like a play date with women, and I never fit in with like all the mommies because I'm like, let's talk about interesting things. I was like, did you guys know the statistic? That means that out of like the 10 of us here, 9 of our husbands are viewing pornography.
I
9 out of 10
wanna
bishops.
know what that reaction was.
Right. Well, I was like, 9 out of 10 bishops, 9 out of 10 stake presidents. They are viewing, and the way they looked at me, the venom, I didn't ever get invited back. I was no longer invited to mommy and me play days, but
I would have been your friend, Heather. I would have.
I know you would have. Well, because we could have been finally. Can you imagine being able to be honest? I was saying this as like a generalization, but I was never about to say my husband is looking at pornography because that would like take away the cloak of perfectionism, right? Like if I could have had somebody to be honest with and have this conversation with, I mean,
No, but
how
also
much?
I think that those women were also probably think that you were throwing daggers at them because I'm sure that they
Yeah,
were also having the same thing within their own marriage and they're
yeah.
sitting there being like 9 and 10. Okay, well Heather's so perfect because you're putting on this image of being perfect is what she's saying is that all of us bitches, all of our husbands are sex addicts and they're watching porn, but not Heather's. That's how they're portraying this.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, maybe.
That's
And
why you never got you never got asked back.
my husband was in every program. He was like, he did one that was like called Sons of Helaman, I think. This was like a virtual program. And he was, my husband though, like bless him, he was doing a lot of this just to like appease me because he had decided a long time ago, like, he's like, this just can't be an issue in my life. I have to feel good about myself. Like, he's like, I am sick of feeling like shit all the time. Like, I'm this horrible human being because once every couple months I do this thing or once a year, even like sometimes, he's like, I just need to like carry on and be a good dad and be a good husband and like carry on with life. And so good for him for doing that, but it didn't change how I felt about it. I was still like in a lot of resentment and anger and frustration, feeling like he had this huge problem he wasn't fixing.
Well,
Um,
did he ever tell you why?
we didn't have any tools for healthy communication in our marriage. We like none. And so whenever he would like confess to me that he like had viewed pornography, which only was a handful of times, like not very often. I think I knew, like I kind of had a sense when he was being like more secretive.
Well, are you having more sex with him at this point at all?
No. I think we
So,
were
okay, so just a guess, like how often were you guys having sex?
once a week, once every other week.
Okay.
Yeah. And then that like started pittering out by the time like after we had our third child, that started pittering out to like once a month, once every other month.
Is that when he would masturbate? Is that when that would happen?
You know what? I don't know. Because we like were not communicating.
Yeah.
I have no reference, like
Yeah.
really.
I
And
would
I
guess.
wasn't very self-aware. Yeah, and I wasn't very self-aware to be like looking at things with like a critical eye like that. Like, oh, is there a cause and effect? Is there a reason here?
Yeah.
I see.
And us as women, we're not looking at the calendar, but you can bet your
Yeah.
ass they're looking at the calendar.
Yeah.
They know the last time they had sex. I couldn't
Right.
tell you the last time I had sex, but my husband could tell you when it was.
Right. And see, I think I often could too. Like I liked having sex. Like I wanted to have sex. It's not that I didn't want to. It's just that it was not very emotionally engaging for me with him, And it did. It developed. I would say by the time I had my second child, I was very much in love with my husband by that point. Like it had developed, it took 7 years. But I think that by the time I had my second child, the way I felt for him really did change. Seeing him as a father to my children, seeing him go through such great lengths to be such an amazing provider for our family, I definitely developed, very strong loving feelings for him. And so
So did
I would
that
say that
not
our
carry
sex
over
probably did.
into a sexual attraction? Like, because I feel like when I look at my husband and he is being a good dad, I'm like, that is so hot. Like,
Yes,
did that
yes.
ever carry over into that?
Like, they say like the foreplay doesn't start in the bedroom. The foreplay starts beforehand. Like, are you taking care of her emotional needs? And that wasn't being met at this point in our relationship. So even though like the love increased, which I think like increased our graciousness towards each other, our like forgiveness, our acceptance of one another in a greater sense, there still wasn't very deep like emotional connection. He was also very careful. He never wanted to seem like it was my fault. So whenever he would like say he viewed pornography, no, he wasn't saying like, oh, it's because we're not having enough sex. Cause I don't think he ever wanted to assign blame that it was like my fault that he was making
Oh,
choices. He was like, I'm making choices. Like this is the
he
choice I'm
sounds like
making.
a really good man.
He's a very good man. Yes, he is. We are now living in like a new home. My husband has like a brand new build. My husband has a job making more money than we ever had. We have 3 kids and a dog. And one day I'm watching my kids outside playing. I had got them into the exact school I wanted them in. And I remember looking out the window, watching my kids playing and being like, I am so discontent. Like, I am so unhappy in my life. Like, I should be, like, this should be the pinnacle. Like, we did it. We did it. We did the whole Mormon program. Like, went to school, got married at the temple, have our kids, have our home, have a job. And yeah, I'm so dissatisfied. And it's
And
just because there had been,
you also have a career at this point too. So that's something that
I
you've always wanted.
I didn't have a career right at that point. I was just a mom. I think I had always been trying to like earn money on the side, like always been trying to contribute. And there were times when I um, inched towards the career I wanted. Like I went on Master Chef with Gordon Ramsay because at one point I thought I wanted to be like a chef. And and then like that was so hard leaving my husband and my child for months to go film. And then I was like, well, actually, maybe I want to do event planning. And like I got offered a job as an event planner, but that was going to be nights and weekends. And like that's not reasonable if you have a kid and a family. When are we ever going to be a family? So like I had times when I would inch towards what I would want, but it would always be like, you have to put your husband and children first. There was never any option to put me first. It was like, put your husband and children first. And now I'm sitting at this point realizing all the times in my life I had been denying my own intuition, denying my own needs and desires and wants. And I'm like so unhappy. And I was really unhappy in my marriage at this point. Like I was starting to reckon with all the choices that I had made. Like you said, you had created this. Yes, I did. And I was starting to reckon with the fact that I created the life I had. And one thing I say to myself, I say to my clients too, like, oh, you can't change the past. So since I'm here, now what?
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm here, what do I want? And so I kind of just started working towards a life that was matching that. Since I'm here now, what do I want? And I wanted like adventure and I wanted partnership and I wanted compatibility and passion. And I wanted things that made me feel whole and fulfilled outside of motherhood. At this point, I was a devout member of the church, but my mind had started to expand to thinking that like there was something deeper. There's like more going on deeper beyond whatever the church is saying. And I remember I stopped attending Relief Society. It was really hard for me to go sit and watch women put themselves down and be saying, like going back to like me when I was in high school and saying, oh, I did this little thing. I'm so bad. I need to do better. I need to do better. I could not stand to be with these women who I looked at and I was like, you're exceptional women. And you're sitting here saying, here's all the ways I need to be better. Here's all the ways we can be better. And I was like, no, you're doing so much above and beyond. Stop. And I listened to his podcast and it's a man, he's telling his story. And through his experience, he had unlocked pre-birth memories, which like tracks if you're Mormon. We had like a pre-existence. And so I'm listening to his story about what it was like for him, what he remembered about before he came to Earth. And I'm looking at it through the lens of Mormonism, through like Mormon goggles. And God came to him and took him out into the universe and like showed him the planets and showed him the sun churning and showed him the stars in the universe and said to him, you will never not be this. And in that moment when I heard this, my impression at the time was like I was zoomed up out of my body into the heavens and I was being shown the universe. And I heard like this God voice say to me, Heather, you too will never not be this. And
And
everything
when
I
you
was
mean
here,
not this, you mean come back
the
to the celestial
universe.
kingdom or come back to
Well,
God.
no, it meant like, Heather, you will always be the universe. Like you are God. Like you are all that is. Like you are the stars. You are the sun. You are the universe. Like you are God. You're not some separate being from some sky daddy. It was like, no, if I, God, am the sun and the stars and the universe, you also are these things. And so as I like was coming back into my body from this experience, I had an image of like a pyramid of blocks. And this was Christianity. And it just crumbled. Like I didn't need a savior. If I'm God, if I'm the universe, all my efforts are good enough. Like everything I'm doing is good enough. Of course, I know how to make choices that are good for people. Like of course I know this. I don't need a savior. I am whole.
So do you feel like at this point you're looking at it like all of the things that you were told that you have to do in order to return back to be like God, because that's what basically we're being told, is that you follow this plan that the church tells you that you're supposed to do. Yes, we all have free agency. However, if you don't do these things, these are the consequences and you're not going to make it back to become like God. So you're looking at it saying that was all bullshit. I can make whatever decisions that I want to do, what Heather wants to do, and I am still going to become a God.
Instantly. It just is broken down to exactly what you said. Like, that's not true. None of that is true. For the first time in my life, I felt non judgment. I felt non judgment about myself, about others, about the choices I was going to make,
Your
about
husband?
about my husband, about my morality, about my own goodness. No judgment. It was the most sublime feeling to finally be at peace, finally not feel like I am so debased before like my creator. And thankfully, I was with my husband's sister who had already left the LDS church. She was there to help nanny our baby. And I just started crying and I turned to her and I said, none of it's true, meaning none of the church is like, none of the church stuff is true. And she just said, yeah, none of it's true. And I was like, wow, the church isn't true. Like in an instant, it just like hit me. The first time I like in my life, I can just feel good about being me and like look at me and see probably like what my parents see. Like it just pride and happiness and joy and contentment with me and who I am. To be in low judgment is a gift. And especially when you come from religion and especially orthodox high demand religion, being able to be in low judgment is something so many people don't even understand. To be in low judgment of self, of others, of your feelings, of the experiences you've had in life, your choices. It's truly a gift. So in that moment, I feel like I become like instantly this better version of me. I'm like instantly become a better version, a more Christ-like version, a more truly loving version of myself. And I'm like, oh crap, I got to tell my husband. Because here I am in this like celestial marriage with this guy, and he in his mind thinks all of this is true. And I'm like, oh, none of this is true. What are we going to do about this? I had spent a couple of years really working internally on myself, healing pretty much every relationship in my life except for my marriage, because it was so heavy and built on such a shithole. I don't know how, like, just built on such denial and like lies. It was so big and heavy. And I was like, it felt insurmountable to work on our marriage. So I asked him, I said, what would you say if I told you I didn't believe in the church anymore? And he said, I would tell you that I think that Satan has persuaded you. Yeah.
As any Mormon would respond.
As I would have said to anybody
Mhm.
who told me the same thing
Right.
when I was a believer.
Mhm.
Yes. In like religious upbringing, any uncomfortable feelings are equated with Satan. Like if you feel bad, if you feel angry, if you feel hurt, you feel frustrated, you feel yuck, you feel just uncomfortable with a topic, that's Satan telling you, or that's the Holy Ghost telling you, don't have that conversation. Don't talk about those things. And so we didn't talk about it for like a year, for a long time. I think that over that first year of me being out of the church, we carried on like normal, went to church. I went to church with him and the kids. Now that I don't believe in the church, Kyle, I have no judgment about you and your pornography use. And he was like, don't turn this on me. Don't try to say that like leaving the church is a good thing because now on my pornography is not bad. Like he was like really defensive because I was like saying, no, it's okay to leave the church because then also we don't have to worry about this thing, which he had like wrapped up so much of his like identity about his goodness in whether he did this or not. Men raised in this, the amount of shame and guilt they feel, not saying women don't look at pornography or engage in extramarital ideation or even acting out, whatever. But I would say men, a lot of men look at pornography, and the shame and guilt that they experience around that is heartbreaking.
Did you ever ask to look at what he was looking at?
No, I have a lot of my own trauma around pornography, and it was in my home growing up, and I had a lot of times where I saw it when I did not want to see it, and so I did not have any intention or desire to see what he was looking at.
I think that even within the church, because, when my husband had told me that he was, I mean, it was a whole letter. I mean, that he had written, drafted to me to tell me that he was looking at pornography. I mean, it was like he was admitting this horrible sin, right? Like he truly, I remember him just being ghost white, handing me this letter telling me that he was looking at pornography.
Yeah,
And yeah, and
the
I was like,
sincerity of it too. Like he's like
yeah.
so sincere, like wanting to be a better husband for you,
Yeah,
probably.
and honestly just was like, I don't know, like, I don't know how to stop. And again, it wasn't like it was all the time, but I mean, I had my own struggles as far as like no libido because I was on anti-anxiety medication, which we all know kills your libido. So I kind of understood that. However, I remember asking him, I'm like, show me what I want to see it. Show me what you're looking at. And so I don't know why. I think it's just because I'm just a very I have to have all of the facts. I want to see all of it. If something happens, I want to know all of it so I can dissect it and analyze it, and also I'm thinking how can I solve this problem, right, within my marriage. And so I look at it and I'm expecting something that is going to be like grotesque, right? Like I am thinking it's going to be, I don't know. I'm thinking it's going to be like trains, it's going to be whips, chains, it's going to be all kinds of dark things, right? Like that's what I'm thinking that pornography is. And he pulled up, like a video, and it was not at all, it was just completely normal, like two people just having normal sex. And it wasn't, I swear, it looked like me. Like I was like, okay, like it's not like he is trying to, the girl doesn't have brown hair. She resembles me in a lot of ways. And you can't even see the guy. And so I remember thinking like this is not at all like as shameful as I thought it was, and it wasn't as dark. But I think that we always think that our minds, and maybe that's just what we're taught within the church, is that it is something that is so terrible. Whereas I was like, no, not really. I mean, he was just trying to take care of his sexual needs because they weren't being met within his marriage.
Well, and I think that that often happens. I think that is like so fascinating with the church. So many things become so demonized and so scary that we don't want to look at them at all. But like really, when you like talk about it, it loses all of its grasp of like fear. It doesn't. It's not as scary anymore because we can just talk about it and like
Mhm.
look at it, and then it's like okay. I think it loses some of its control, its grasp on people. I also think that when you make something a huge no-no, that's like makes people want it more. They're like, well,
Mhm.
what is it? What is all of this? Why can't I look at this? What is the big deal about it? And so I think that there's so much wrapped up in all of this that just creates like massive internal turmoil and dysfunction, and then marital and relationship and sexual dysfunction within a relationship. So we carried on for like a year with me being a member, me being out. Like I was like, I'm not a believer. And
But
I
you're
hadn't
still
looked,
going.
I'm
You're
still
going to
going.
you're going to sacrament.
Yep. And I hadn't looked at like any anti-Mormon anything at that point, or what I called anti-Mormon. I didn't listen to your podcast, Mel. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay. It wasn't around
I
then.
just teasing you. I started when I was going to church with my children, I started to think I actually don't want my kids here. I don't want my kids learning some of the things they're learning. I don't want my kids carrying the same guilt and shame that I carried and that their dad carries. I don't
Mhm.
want my kids looking at me like I'm a bad person because I don't believe these things and being taught and brainwashed that I'm a bad person because I don't go to church, because I don't believe in Joseph Smith or the prophet, and I don't pray to God, that I don't have a relationship with Christ. And I started realizing I wanted more. I was like, I want an actual partnership. I want to be able to talk openly. I want clear communication. I want sex that's passionate. And so I was like, let's go to therapy. The problem with seeing a non Mormon therapist when you're dealing with a lot of religious trauma is that you have to explain everything to them.
Yeah.
And that became too much work. It was too
It's
much
frustrating.
labor.
Yeah.
I did start asking my husband, can we go to marriage counseling? And he was like, no, I don't want to do that. I wanted to have this conversation about religion. I wanted to have the conversation about sex and our marriage and me having a job. My husband just did not want to go to therapy. I think he didn't want to look at the things. He didn't want to talk about the things. It was too hard, too much money. He didn't want to spend that much money on like seeing a therapist. And he just kept telling me no. And meanwhile, I'm like, you know what? I'm just building a life that I love. Like get on the train or get off, but I'm going to like build a life I love. And I'm going to do the things that I want to do. When the lights go out, what do I want to have lived? Do I want to say that I never had passionate sex with somebody? Like, is that something I'm okay with exiting, never experiencing while I'm human?
Mhm.
Am I okay spending years with a partner who we don't talk about things and communicate about things? Like, am I okay with that? And the answer was no. It was like, no, you are living one life. You want to live it to the fullest. Like, I wanted to feel satisfied and overjoyed and excited about my life. I had started crafting a letter to my husband, like your husband did. Started crafting a letter that laid it all out, that all the points of dishonesty in our marriage that I felt, whether they were meant to be hurtful or not, I wanted to lay it out. All the things that we had never talked about, how his pornography affected me, the choice I made at 19 and the repercussions. That's really how I saw it. I made this choice and here's all the repercussions from it. That's kind of how I laid out the letter. And I finally told him, you know what? I'm not saying this to be hurtful, but I didn't want to marry you.
This is also your way of tying it all up into a bow and giving it to him.
What's in, and also I was like, if you're not going to go to therapy, I'm going to bring it to you then. You keep telling
Mhm.
me you don't want to go to therapy. I'm trying to do this as safely as possible. Here's the best way I can think of is like give you a letter and let you have your experience with it. And so I've crafted this letter, and it kind of took me a while to write this letter.
Did you
And
ever think that you would even have that possibility of leaving your marriage if he wasn't going to listen to you?
absolutely, it was a deal breaker for me. It
Mhm.
was
Did
my
you put that in
exit
the
letter.
letter?
Yeah, it was starting to be the exit letter. Yes, of if here's the life I want, and if you don't want to be in that, then I'm going to go find somebody who does because I can't live like this. So while I'm writing this letter, my husband forwards me a Facebook message from a friend of his. This person, he's writing this little Facebook post about his experience with Mormonism and why he left and how he feels about the church after having left. And it matched a lot of my own feeling. This man had articulated my internal feelings. And my husband then saw it. And my husband saw me in those words. And that was the first time in a long time that I felt my husband saw me. And so I felt very moved and I felt really grateful that he was seeing me and I thought, okay, maybe there's hope. Because we had an infant child at this time, like a baby, and 4 kids. I wasn't prepared to leave my marriage. I didn't want to leave my marriage. It would have been better if we could figure it out. But also I was like, I'm not willing to show my kids that this is all that life has, living this way with myself. So I wrote back to his friend and said, hey, I just want to let you know, thanks for writing that. It was really helpful in my marriage. And he said, well, hey, can I give you a call? Well, at this time, I'm now working as an emotional coach. I talk to people all the time. I'm thinking this guy just wants to talk to somebody who's out and has common language. So I asked Kyle if he's okay with it. And he said, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, I start talking to this guy and we start a friendship and we're talking. And he, at some point, he starts confessing feelings for me. And it's like, listen, like, talk to Kyle? Would he be open to like letting you have sexual experiences? Would he be open to polyamory? Like maybe Kyle would be open. And I'm like, I don't think so. That's like, no. Because my husband was still like a believing member of the church at this point. And I told him, hey, I can't talk to you. Like, my marriage is messy enough. I need to wrap this up before I can like talk to you again. And he just like didn't let up. He didn't like respect that boundary. And he pursued more. But it like ignited something in me that somebody was like being super passionate about me. I was like, oh, passion is possible.
So it wasn't even necessarily this guy. It was just this guy opened up the idea that there is still life for Heather out there.
And then there's experiences I haven't had, and like there's things that I haven't done. And I like kept my distance, and I'm continuing to write this letter to Kyle and trying to wrap everything up. I asked him one more time, will you please go to therapy? And he definitively says, I am not going to go to therapy. Stop asking. And so at that moment, my marriage ended for me. At that moment, there was no more marriage. If we cannot work on it, then it's done. And so now for me, it's like total exit strategy. How am I getting out of this? So my grandmother ended up passing away. She dies. And I really have this huge, just like life altering moment. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care anymore. Like, I'm going to pursue what feels good. I'm going to do whatever feels good. And I message back to that guy and I like tell him however I was feeling about him, how I felt when he would like talk to me. And we end up like sexting. That
Ooh,
to
so
me was like,
spicy.
it's so spicy. I know. And like, I felt finally like, I don't know, alive again and like free, and was like, well, whatever. Like, my marriage is over. My grandma died. I'm about to go to this funeral. I'm going to tell my entire family my marriage is over. By the way, I don't believe in your Mormon church anymore. Like, it's just going to, I'm like about to implode my world. This is like, I'm about to just explode it.
But at
So,
the same time, you're like finally back to that 18-year-old Heather, right? Like where you're just
mhm,
like, ugh.
where I can finally like let out all that like I've held in like so tightly under this like in this bottle of piety. It's like, oh, I can finally let this out and just like be reckless. And not that I am advocating for recklessness, but it is what I did. And so then I like felt very connected to this guy. I finished the letter to Kyle. I leave it on the counter. He and I drive down to St. George to go to my grandmother's funeral. And he comes home from work. He works nights. He comes home and he understandably was distraught. His whole life like exploded. Everything he thought his marriage was is now revealed to be what it is. Um, and by the way, that guy, your friend, he and I are like sexting each other and like,
Oh, you
like,
put it all in there. All of it.
yes, I put it, I was not about to tiptoe or not be honest. I was like, I'm going to just put it out. Like,
You are a queen, Heather.
well, I think when you hit that point, you're like, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be honest. It's going to be
Yeah.
said, it's going to be said. And he asks, and at some point, this other guy ends up messaging my husband and like asking if we can like, I don't know, like be in polyamory or like expressing his admiration for me. I don't
He
know. My
asked
husband's
your husband that?
something. I don't know exactly what was said, but I mean, the balls. And my husband's like, yeah, don't talk to me and don't talk to my wife, right? And he asked me,
Hard
he's like,
no.
can you just
Hard no for Kyle. I
yeah, yeah.
don't
He's like,
care.
no, I'm not into that. And whatever, Heather's an adult. She'll make whatever choices she's going to make. But
Obviously.
yeah. But he did ask me, he said, will you stop talking to him? And I said, sure. Because once again, it wasn't really about this guy. Like, it wasn't him that I wasn't leaving my husband for this guy. He was just a catalyst to even more coming out. And so I was like, sure, whatever. It didn't matter to me. Stop talking to the guy. And I come home and I'm like, we need to separate. Like, this isn't working. You refuse to go to therapy. This isn't going to work. And of course, he's like, no, I'll go to therapy. And I'm like, I don't know, we probably still should separate. But make an appointment. Like if you're serious, you can make an appointment and we'll go. And then I'm thinking, Kyle read that 10-page letter and still loves me and wants to be with, it might be longer than that actually. It's probably closer to 20 pages. And like still loves me and wants to be with me. That's something to examine. Somebody who knows, who's really been with me for so long. And so I told him, let's go ahead and give it a go and let's go to therapy. I shared with him a couple podcasts that had been meaningful to me that showed mixed faith marriages, like particularly one in the LDS church and somebody who's left the LDS church, and was trying to show him, let him see me more at this new, more authentic version of myself. And as he had listened to those podcasts and he started listening to more and he started to look at the truth claims of the church and for himself decided it also wasn't true. They weren't true, the truth claims that the church was making. And he ended up leaving the church pretty
And
shortly
and
after.
those podcasts were not necessarily anti-Mormon. They were just basically showing how you could progress your marriage being of two different faiths.
Yeah. And just I think that often in the Mormon narrative, the person who is no longer believing doesn't get a voice anymore because we are in general kind people and we're trying to navigate the safety of everybody in the group. And so you don't want to make the people you love feel unsafe by being like, by the way, what you believe is all a lie. Of course, I don't want to say that to somebody who I love. And so it's like also just letting that voice be heard though. But, and also, I don't want to tell you that. Also, I have my whole own story and my whole own feeling and experience going on that, like, if you're not willing to sit in the discomfort of me no longer being a member of the church, you're never going to get to also taste and know and witness the truth of who I am, the real me, if you're not willing to sit in that discomfort of being with somebody who no longer believes the same thing you believe. And so, yeah, it wasn't to try to persuade him not to be Mormon anymore. It truly, I actually have never had a desire to persuade anybody I love not to be Mormon. So, and he ended up leaving the church. That was fantastic for our marriage. That was fantastic for our sexuality. That was fantastic for us being open and honest and discussing things and talking about things and being willing to try things in the bedroom that we had never tried before.
Because let's also talk about the fact like oral sex isn't even allowed as far as like within a marriage. Like that's not I mean, we did it, but we were breaking the rules.
Like you're very explicitly taught as a teen, no oral sex. As an adult, like I remember like that was something that I wanted to do when we were like married, but in my mind having an idea that that was like really bad. Like nobody ever explicitly told me no, you're not supposed to do it, but I carried that implication from as a teen, you're not supposed to have oral sex into marriage as well. Our bodies weren't meant for pleasure. Because in the Mormon church, pleasure is bad. Pleasure is mixed with Sodom and Gomorrah. Pleasure is mixed with the scripture of like eat, drink, and be merry. Like, that's bad. You're not supposed to just enjoy yourself. Yeah, you are. Why not? Like, why not? Why can't we just enjoy ourselves? When you're so worried about being righteous, I think it's hard to be honest about what you're actually feeling. And so our marriage just like really improved.
Well, how long have you guys both been out of the church? Like this is in your new marriage, basically.
Yeah. So for me, it's almost 5 years. And so for him, it's almost 4 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yes, it's been wild.
so in therapy, we had like our therapist, he basically said that our marriage that we had when we were Mormon, you have to kill it. Like it's dead. It's not you have to take it and just treat it like a death. And now it's basically like a new marriage. And essentially you're still in that like honeymoon stage, right? Where you have this new marriage, you're having to set your own boundaries within your marriage, what is allowed, what's not allowed. I'm sure drinking is probably new for you guys as well. And so it's like we had to come up with like, is it okay to drink without the other person? If you go to a bar, like, you go with girls, I just go with girls. Like, how do you navigate whatever those boundaries are that you set for each other? But like, even I hear you say like it's not perfect. Well, it's not perfect because you're still in the honeymoon stage. You're still figuring out how this new marriage is going to be. But the difference is that you also have 4 kids. And so, it's not like it's just you 2 when you first get married and you're navigating through this newlywed stage. Now you are newlyweds, but you also have 4 lives that you're also trying to navigate, and you're also changing your parenting style. So there is so much going on within this new Mormon life, this new Mormon family, Mormon marriage, that that is completely heavy on its own.
When you're used to a marriage going a certain way and you're used to one partner carrying most of the emotional burden, or in some partnerships like the physical labor or whatever. I mean, I have carried a lot of the emotional labor in our relationship, and now I'm like, not anymore. Like, not my problem. You can get a therapist as easy as I can. You can build
Mhm.
support systems as easy as I can. You are actually a grown individual who can take accountability for your own life, and whatever you want to be living and experiencing, you can do that. And it's not my job anymore. Now, if you want to do some things as a partnership, absolutely. And you ask, and I feel like I can fulfill that request, sure. But it's no longer, there's a lot of the assumptions that in our marriage that existed under our LDS marriage, those assumptions are gone. Like, don't assume anything anymore, that I'm going to be filling any roles or that you need to fill any roles. We can actually create what we want now. Yeah.
How do you navigate through that? How has it been? Because before you did have a roadmap and now you get to make your own roadmap. How is that hard, difficult, or how do you guys navigate through that?
Yeah, I would say it's really difficult. I would say also it's fascinating because now that we're both willing and allowed to feel our feelings, sometimes the feelings look bigger than, like, we didn't fight when we were Mormon. And I know some like therapists are like, oh, that's when you know things are real crazy if they're not fighting, because you're like, that's not Christ like. We can't fight. Like, get along, make it work out. And now we're like, I'm gonna share my big feeling and you're gonna share your big feeling. The way that I navigate it most, first of all, is once again doing a lot of my own internal work. There was a lot of resentment and bitterness and anger that I've had to work through, and even anger, like allowing myself to feel anger and really process it and let it be there, and bitterness and resentment towards the church and the choices I made, because whatever I had been taught to believe, or however I internalized the teachings I was being taught, I was very angry and bitter about a lot of that and the choices I made because of it. And I think that for me, it's just for us in our relationship, just our particular dynamic too, is just learning to communicate and trusting myself that it's safe to be honest and it's safe to express how I feel. Because in the past, I didn't feel like that was the case. And so now it's like I have to trust myself that like I can say what I need and say what I want. Also, I don't require him to be the provider of my needs and my wants. I'm like a pretty badass woman and I'll go out and like make my needs and wants happen. I kind of still have the feeling of like, get on the train or get off, and you get to have that about your life. Build the life that you want, and we get to cross where we cross, and we can have individuality where we don't, and that's okay.
I love that. And it all sounds very healthy.
Yeah, I mean, I like to believe it is. Like I said, I don't think I don't want to paint some picture of perfection.
No, but because in the reality of everything is that life is not perfect. It is messy. And we all have different personalities, and we're in these marriages, and things are going to crumble, and you do have to build them back up, and that's okay. But pretending like everything's great and perfect, that is not healthy. But just saying, yeah, like I say all the time, people are always like, "Oh, you guys look so perfect." I'm like, I'm sure it looks like that." Yeah, no, I'm a fucking mess. Like, we're always consistently working on ourselves, working on our marriage, going to therapy, like always. And that is how it will be because that is life. Nobody is ever going to get to that point where you're done and you're on cruise control. It just is not reality.
And I think that now we both feel like we're actually in choice. I think that when you're in the LDS church, you're under this illusion of, what do they call it? Free agency.
There's
Oh,
no
you have
free
free
agency.
agency. You get to make choice. No, there's not. You don't get
No.
to make choice. And now I think that we're both in this knowing that we get free choice. We get to choose into this partnership every day, or we can choose out. Nobody's forcing us to stay here. No covenant is tying us to be here. No God is looming over us, going to punish us and our children if we decide we don't want to be here. So now we actually get to choose. And we get to choose how we show up, and we get to choose if we're staying here. And I think that is paramount, that we get to choose. We actually are in choice now.
How does he feel about it? Does he feel just as passionate or is it harder for him?
Is what? How do you feel
Like,
about
as
what?
far as being able to make your own choices and have that free agency and that empowerment, like, is that something that he also feels as passionate about?
I would say that he feels very beholden to the family. So I think that he really does honor the role that he has. Also, because he kind of created that too, where in his desire to be the perfect priesthood leader, that also meant he was going to be the financial provider for our family. And that a lot of our family was built around, and a lot of our structure was built around his career and the career he chose and the dynamics of that. I think that he feels more free now, though, to make choices that feel good to him, right? If that's like having a drink after work or going fishing on Sunday, or, I think that he feels more entitled to choosing things that feel good to him.
And then what about your kids? Did you give them a choice to go to church or
I did not give my kids a choice to be in the church, and I did not give my kids a choice to not be in the church.
I actually
I,
love that. That makes
yeah,
total sense. Yes.
yes. They had no choice. They followed me because that was my religion. And then they're going to follow me because that's no longer my religion. And that's what's in the home. And I think that it is very detrimental for my children to be taught that it's not good for your parents not to go to church. You have to, in order to be a good moral person, you have to believe in God, you have to believe in Christ, you have to follow the prophet, no drinking, going to church on Sunday, attending the temple. You get it, like the litany of things. And if we're not doing those, I refuse for my children to see me as a bad person, because I know that every day, the highest honor of my life is to try to show up with the utmost intention with my family. And I will not have a church undermine that, under the name of God, under the name of what's right. I will not have a church undermine that. So no, I told all my children we are not going to attend church anymore. And being able to have those conversations and show them just the goodness that abounds. And it's not only to be found within the church.
Well, because I'm sure that you've seen this too, is when you have these, because a lot of the women are leaving the church and a lot of the men are staying. And I know I have a lot of friends that they've left and their husbands continue to go and take the kids. And they are looking at their moms as in a negative light because all of the rules that they've taught them to follow, they are now breaking them. And they are going to church and listening to all of the things that they should not be doing. And then they're watching their mom do all the things that they're taught are bad or sinful. And so there's really, I mean, it's really hard to not think that that could hurt a relationship between a parent and their kid.
I think generally in lots of those cases, there's already so much harm being done, just adult to adult, that then the children just become, I don't know, like they just get swept up in that mess too. I don't feel like any of that would be my experience, even if we did separate. But thankfully, he's out now. He's
Yeah.
seen the light. He's seen the light, and we're able just to be a family together now. That's navigating, what does it mean to like not be Mormon What does it mean not to be Mormon? And how do you raise good, ethical children in this world without the church?
Your kids will still be amazing, ethical, good people regardless. And also, you're finally finding your happiness, the happiness that you were really trying to find at 18, 19 years old. And you're finally finding it at this stage of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. If you would have asked me at 18 if I was going to leave the church, I was like, no, that's the irony. I was like, I better marry somebody who's going to stay. And then I needed that so I could leave.
Yeah, and essentially that's why you married Kyle too, because you knew that he was going to be that strong priesthood holder and get you to the celestial kingdom. And even when you told him that you weren't going to go to church, he still continued because that's who you married. You chose him for that reason. And do you think he also doesn't believe in the church at all, or does he still have that tie to go back over where he's like, oh, I don't know if I don't believe in it, but I have to for my wife? Or do you feel like he's also finding his happiness in his truth? Like, as much as people find their truth in Mormonism, is he finding his truth in not believing in it?
When you believe the church, you're like, oh, it's true. And that's like all you believe. And then as soon as you believe the church isn't true, it's like you can't go back. I no longer believe it's true. And so, no, I don't think that he has any belief in any of the truth claims of the LDS church. I think he appreciated the community. I build strong community for me wherever I go. And in my relationships, I think it's been harder for him to do that. And so the church was like built in community. And I think he appreciated that. He is really happy with building our life and doing the things that we do as a family now.
I think marriage is hard on its own in the first place. And then to throw in any sort of religious trauma on top of that is extremely difficult and hard. And so I always feel like if you can survive this, your marriage is probably going to be able to survive anything.
There's so much more to our story, and maybe sometime we'll share that another
I
way
know, I
together. But
honestly feel like we've
um,
talked for so long and I still feel
yeah,
like there is so much still left unsaid.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
this is to be continued.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, bye Heather.
Bye.